Let me share with you the experience that opened my eyes to the internet's potential to turbocharge generosity. I'm a media entrepreneur. For the first half of my career, I built a company in the UK and the US that published scores of hobbyist magazines, many of them about technology. In 1998, I was invited to attend a conference in California that, unusually, was devoted not to one industry, but to three: technology, entertainment, and design. Yup, this was the TED conference. Because of the conference's breadth of content, speakers had to make their work accessible to outsiders, and it turns out that when you do that, there is a crossover effect. Software creators were inspired by physical architecture. Screenwriters and artists had their minds blown by technologists, and everyone felt the potential and significance of their work to be elevated. I was mesmerized. A couple of years later, I had the opportunity to take over the conference from its charismatic co-founder. I leapt at the chance, partly because there seemed to be good prospects for expanding its sphere. It wasn't just technology, entertainment, and design that could cross-pollinate with each other. It was every subject. All human knowledge is part of a single elusive reality. We don't fully understand anything until we understand how it connects to the other parts of knowledge. I couldn't afford to buy TED personally. The dot-com bust of 2000 to 2001 had ravaged my media company, Future plc. So, instead, TED became part of a not-for-profit foundation I had created a few years earlier when times were good. And I left Future to focus full-time on this weird conference and to ponder how it might grow. Since it was now a non-profit, TED had to be run for the public good, and that meant trying to find a way to gain a wider audience for the inspirational talks that were given there. In the early aughts, this was harder than you may think. We tried to persuade TV networks that TED Talks would make for excellent viewing. They laughed at us. Public lectures were about the most boring thing they could imagine. Then we had a more radical idea. On the internet, bandwidth was relentlessly increasing, and the fledgling technology of online video was starting to become viable. Back in 2006, it was often limited to a small, low-res window in the corner of a desktop screen, but we felt it was worth a try. In an experiment, we posted 6 of the talks in full on our website. To our surprise, they went viral, rapidly notching up tens of thousands of views. Not much by today's standards, but for a website that had been getting just a few hundred visitors a day, it was startling. And the feedback we received from viewers shocked us in its intensity. People didn't just like what they had seen, they loved it. They'd been inspired. And suddenly, we were faced with a dilemma. As a non-profit, we felt we had an obligation to freely share all of our best content online. Now, this was clearly a dangerous move. Our attendees paid a lot of money to come to TED. That was by far the main source of income we had. Why would they continue to do that if the content was freely available on the internet? We weren't sure. But we went ahead anyway. What happened next was astonishing. First, the bulk of our conference-going community quickly got behind the move. A small handful grumbled, but the vast majority were thrilled that they could now share a profound experience with others. And the response from those viewing these talks for the first time online was even more surprising. We were deluged with messages from people expressing how deeply they'd been moved and how they wanted to help support the speakers and help further spread their ideas. Visits to our website exploded into the millions, and TED was transformed from a niche conference to a global brand, all via word of mouth. Instead of demand for our conference being destroyed, it increased. And something else happened. From all over the world, we started receiving offers to translate the talks into local languages.